What's up, cool cats and kittens? I wanted to talk about some of Apple's best discontinued products. So they do still make products in some of these categories, but the products that they make now are not nearly as good as the ones I'm about to show you. So the first product I wanted to talk about is actually from the mid 2000s. It's the Mighty Mouse. This thing was awesome. This was one of the first Apple mice that I remember using. This, you see, has a pretty short cable because it's intended to plug right into either an iMac, which had their ports on the right side, or it could also be plugged into this Apple keyboard. This mouse actually was pretty underrated in my opinion. It's touch sensitive, so based on which finger you have clicking is whether it registers or left or right click. It's a little hard to explain. I'll put something up on the screen that explains it better. But on top of that, they also included this cool little 360 scroll ball. This is really great, especially if you use spreadsheets or if you're a video editor, scrolling around stuff like the timeline that goes horizontally instead of vertically. It's really great to just have this little side scrolling. Going further, this was one of the first Apple mice to have the laser pointer instead of an optical ball. So you didn't have to worry about cleaning that ball anymore. Moving on from this guy, the wireless replacement. I think this is also called the Mighty Mouse. Maybe this is the first one called the Magic Mouse. It might be the wireless mouse. I think it's called the wireless mouse. I think they dropped the name Mighty Mouse. Anyway, it's basically the old mouse, but now it doesn't have the cable, and it can take either one or two AA batteries, and that kind of extends the battery life or changes the weight. So if you like a lighter mouse, you can use one battery. If you don't mind a little bit heavier of a mouse, yeah, you can just use two batteries, and then you get a longer battery life. I like that when you turn the mouse off, you kind of cover up the tracking sensor. It's cool to like travel with. You can just close it up and it's off, and then you can just throw it in your bag and you don't have to worry about anything getting in there. Anyway, this is what I still use every single day. Like, this has become my main mouse. It's really easy. You just turn it on and you can connect it right in the Bluetooth settings on pretty much any modern Mac. That moves us along pretty nicely to this little guy, which is pretty notoriously hated. This is pretty much the whole reason I wanted to make this video, was because I couldn't believe how much of a downgrade this mouse is in comparison to the old one. There's absolutely no way to cover the optical sensor. I don't notice any tracking difference. In fact, I think this one's a little bit buggy sometimes depending on what surface you're on. And I've always thought that. This one opts for, instead of a plastic design, they go for glass on the top and aluminum on the bottom. It actually adds a lot of heft, especially when you put two batteries in here. And yes, this one needs two batteries. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but I don't think that you can use just one in here. The only real improvement to using this mouse is getting rid of the optical ball, or the scroll ball. You can still do the side to side or horizontal scrolling or scrolling up and down, but I guess you don't really get any feedback for doing that. So it feels a little bit more like swiping on your iPhone because it's just dragging your finger across glass. Whereas the last one, you actually got a little bit of feedback when you would roll your finger over that ball. So Apple obviously heard all of our complaints and wanted to improve that last mouse by adding a lightning port, and they added it on the bottom of the mouse. If you're not even an Apple user, you've probably seen this before because it's just been clowned on pretty much since its inception. This one also doesn't feel that much lighter than the old one that used batteries. So I feel like I've painted a pretty accurate portrayal of Apple's older mice and how they seem to be objectively better than the newer ones. Moving on, I'm bringing out a 20-year-old Apple wireless keyboard. This is their first Bluetooth keyboard. I actually picked this up at a thrift store a few years ago, and it came in the box. I don't know if I'll have any pictures of that still, but I cleaned this thing up. It's almost entirely modular, so you can take it down to the components. It uses, I think, 4 AA batteries. The battery life is really good on it. It's a little tedious to get connected to a new Mac, which is kind of the only gripe I have with it, but it does work. I can turn it on right now and start typing on my new Mac. Not much more I want to demonstrate on that, but it does work. Now, a lot like the mice I just showed you, that also had a wired and wireless option. I liked the wireless one, but the wired one might be a little bit better, just because it plugs right into your Mac, and it also has two USB ports, just like this next one I'm about to show you. This is the next product I want to talk about, which is by far and away my favorite keyboard. This is the Apple wired numeric keyboard. They produced these for a long time, from the mid 2000s to like the late 2010s. This was the best Apple keyboard I think they ever made. It's a laptop style chiclet keyboard, which means that there's not very much key travel compared to something like a mechanical keyboard. But if you are coming from mechanical keyboards, you really, really appreciate how quiet this is to type on. This one also opts for a much slimmer design. You can see how thin it is in comparison to the old one. And the USB ports are a little bit recessed, so depending on the product that you're actually plugging in, you might be able to, you might not be able to. It just depends on the type of USB it is. This also, once again, came in a wired and wireless version. I opt for the wired version just because in this case, it actually comes with a 10 key numeric keypad. While we're on the topic, the wireless version of this is also a lot smaller. It's pretty much the same thickness, but it does use AA batteries as well. So you're sensing a theme. You'd be really chewing through AA batteries if you were an Apple user in the mid to late 2000s. All right, so the final product I wanted to mention today is this big, beautiful Apple Cinema display. This particular monitor is from 2008, and it's still working great. This monitor really blows other monitors from the time out of the water, and I think it was so far ahead of its time that that's what makes it still a good monitor to this day. It actually beats the resolution of the monitors that I was coming from, which are just typical 1080p monitors. This monitor uses a resolution of 1920 by 1200. The colors are also incredible. It's pretty much the same contrast ratio that Apple still aims to get. It has a built-in webcam, it has built-in speakers. I already mentioned that I can plug other devices right into it. Thankfully, it does work with my new Mac, but not thanks to this cable. This is an Apple-made adapter, which if you look at the ports on this adapter, you would think that it would work. But Apple actually doesn't list the Apple Cinema display as compatible with this adapter. I saw a lot of reviews online that said that it would work, so I bought one hoping that I was just gonna get lucky. And I was not. It actually doesn't display anything when you plug it in. However, other adapters just like this totally display the monitor. There's this weird little bug with a couple glitched pixels in the top. I don't know what that's about, but that's the only problem I've had with the monitor. And it's definitely something to do with the adapter, because I have used the monitor with my Windows PC and it doesn't have those glitched pixels. So I just got to get another adapter, I guess. The next generation of this monitor was actually called the Apple Thunderbolt display. It went back to a 16:9 aspect ratio. It bumped up the size to 27 inches from 24, but it had pretty much identical colors and build quality. The first few Apple Cinema displays ended up using pretty similar connectors to this. So yeah, this monitor, just like a lot of the other stuff I'm using, was built in an era of Apple that was really, really well-built products that were really built to last a lifetime. I bought a lot of these products secondhand, and it's a testament to that build quality that they're still working. Apple's had a real fight against repairability in this weird era we're in, and these products are almost entirely repairable. I mentioned that keyboard I took apart entirely. The entire front of this monitor actually comes off just with suction cups, and it has magnets holding it on. It's definitely a testament to them being able to do it. Yeah, I am a big fan of these products, and it's because they're still working that I have absolutely no intention of ever upgrading to the studio display. It's just not for me. Thankfully, all this stuff will work on my new Mac Mini, and I've had this thing for almost 6 months. So if you want to see a review of the new Mac Mini, hit like and subscribe and stick around for that. That's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching.